Okay, so now that we've done all of that, can we actually see if it renders once?
Yeah. So last episode, I was telling you how React was smart only to re-render the parts that
Particular
matter.
components, yeah, you look at states.
Yeah, and I didn't show that, but I want to show that in the browser.
Does it work?
Yeah. So first of all, this is no longer blinking every 200 milliseconds.
That's true.
It's rendering.
That's the first
Fine.
hint we have.
And now we have a list of 2 forms with 2 input fields. Actually, we have many more, but
Yeah, but
let's
what
work
was-
with the first 2, this guy and this guy.
Okay.
Now notice how when I type here, it only flashes the
The first
one.
one, okay,
So
yeah.
it's
So
only
it is-
updating the
yeah.
parts of the application.
It is
that
smart
matter.
enough to realize what is changing and the state change. Okay.
Yep. Also, I want to show you something else. The React extension for Google Chrome, it shows me kind of the same tree we were looking at before, except that it shows me in terms of the components I wrote.
Yeah. These are React components rather than just HTML tags.
Yeah. So it's good to have both views. In some cases, we want to see the components that were rendered, and the HTML is grayed out. But in some cases, we want to see the actual
just
HTML.
What HTML is used by React.
Yeah. In particular, it's important to note the actual HTML because we are using a nasty, nasty trick that we are going to fix in this episode.
What trick is that?
The trick is anytime we hit a key, we are updating the thing on the server, which makes the thing super slow. If I type fast enough, I can get some inputs
Latency,
to be dropped.
Yeah.
So if I try to write like your name really fast, I only got the H. I'm missing some letters in the middle because it's trying to update to the server every time. So this is super slow and bad. And we are also using another trick that is super, super nasty. So let's look at how the item works. The item description.
You mean to say how we're creating new form data and changing it for target elements?
Yeah, so the way this works is, remember from way back, what we did is we have a handle on the item description, which is this input right here.
And its parent will be the form.
The parent, we are getting the parent element, that is the form.
Yeah.
And we are creating form data based on that form.
Yeah.
Why is this a nasty trick? Well, first of all, we are updating for every keystroke. As we saw, that comes with a bunch of problems.
Yeah, it's a huge latency thing.
The second problem is that the component that is called item description is no longer self-contained. It only works because it's rendered from within a form in the item component. So a component,
but if you take it out, it will be a problem.
So a component should only depend on its props. It should never depend on the context under which it's rendered. So that's why it's important to have this HTML view here on the browser, because we can understand how the trick works. It was kind of okay we were
trying it the first time, but now that we're doing code review and we're refactoring, we might as well figure out a better way to
I would say it was kind of okay when we didn't have components, because we could see the whole HTML in one blob. And if you are seeing the whole HTML, you can see how the parent is right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, it's kind of hacky. But now we don't even see the parent. We see the component by itself, and then it's calling its parent. Who is its parent? I don't even know.
What is happening actually?
So it's terrible. It's terrible, and it means to fix all. And we can fix all these problems with a single hammer.
How big is that hammer? It depends.
It's an okay hammer. So I told you before when we created this component that it had to be a class because it was going to be stateful. Now we can see why.
So we'll have states. Okay.
We can solve this with state. And the idea is kind of smart. So first of all, I'll get rid of the form. Okay, that was a hack. I got rid of the form. Now let's see. This input, it has an onChange handler, which happens every time I hit a keystroke. But there are other handlers I can define.
Yeah, obviously.
And I will define some of them. So I'll just start indenting this because things will get longer. And I think this might be the indentation that is.
Yeah, much better to read actually.
Yeah, it's not good, but it's okay. So there are other there are other handlers that I can work with. I can handle an event that is called onFocus. That happens when I put the cursor on the box, or when I hit tab and I go to the next one. That is also on focus. I have onChange anytime I hit a key, and I have on blur. That happens when I move out of the field. So now this field is on focus. Now it's on blur.
Out of it, yeah.
All these events. And I can work with these events. Let's see how we want to work with these events. Well, for one thing, I know I only want to run this let's update everything on blur, right?
Yep.
I don't want to have this to happen on every keystroke, but only when you are finished working with the field.
Yeah.
There is a trade-off, however. The way it stands, I have not updated the
server.
I have not refreshed the server and the browser, so I'm still running under the old version. The trade-off is now when I start writing, the other person sees immediately.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen though. I wanted it to happen only when I blur, only when I go out of the field.
When you're done writing it,
will be able to see the field. Which is, I think it's better. It's the thing you want.
It's not real time though.
Yeah, you don't want the person to be able to see every keystroke, especially if suppose two people are on the same field.
In this era of privacy, sure you do. The government knows anyways.
Yeah. Well, in any case, we only want to update the thing when you go out of the field.
Yep.
And the person will only be able to see that when it goes out of the field. But in any case. So now we handle the on blur, and that will do the fetching. On focus and on change, what can we do here? Well, we can use some state.
Yeah.
So I will introduce some state by defining a constructor. Same thing we did before in the previous episode. And if you forget to call the superclass constructor,
then IntelliJ actually tells you, okay, that's good.
Yeah. So we need to call the parent, which is the React component with the props. And then we can initialize the state to be null. We learned in the previous episode that the state can be null.
Yeah. An object or null, one of the two.
Yeah, null or an object. On focus, I will set the state.
To have whatever description it does?
Yes. Remember that I cannot say this. I have to say set state.
Yeah.
And it will be description equals to this props item description. So where is it? It is right here.
The value.
The value. So now I am initializing some state. Oh, this needs to be a function, right? So it needs to read like this. Same as here. All event handlers need to be functions. I think this can be in one line.
In one line, exactly.
And
one more. Okay.
Yeah, this is the function body, and this is us escaping to JavaScript from within JSX. So now we have this on focus that will set a state. Well, how do we even use this state? Well, when rendering, we don't necessarily want to get the description from the props, because that's the description coming from the server.
Yeah.
So if we have a description in the state, then we want to use that instead. So let's check. Is this state equals null? If it is equal to null, then render the description from the props.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
you go to
use the state description. That's how we use the description in the state. And on change, we update that description in the state. So it will look similar. We'll say, except that now we need the event because we need to get a handle of the value that was changed. So now we need to say this set state.
Okay, that's odd.
Yeah, it's hanging in there.
Do you want to try shutting down one instance of Chrome?
Yeah, I think IntelliJ just crashed.
Unexpected technical glitches.
Because we are reaching our last episode, and now IntelliJ wants to play smart.
Yeah, and try to keep us on for longer, you mean?
I want this series to last forever, IntelliJ says. Okay, so now we were implementing
on focus and on change.
Oh, it forgot everything we did.
Exactly,
awesome.
Yeah.
So on focus, we need the.
Oh yeah! Damn, it doesn't even have that.
So props, super props, and this state null.
Yeah.
When we are rendering, we check Is this state null? If it is, then use the props. Otherwise,
use the state description.
This state description. By the way, do you think that people know this notation?
I hope so. It's ternary operator.
Yeah, it's a ternary operator. It's like an if then else. Yeah. So this is the condition, this is the then, and this is the else.
It's a very it
exists
it's a neat trick.
It exists in C, it exists in Java, and it exists in JavaScript.
C++ and Python also.
Yeah, so in many languages. So on Focus, we say this set state to be the the props description. That's what we had. I'm saving now. Saving. On
Please
change.
Don't die on us.
On change.
You need the event here,
Yeah, I'm gonna say this set state description is event.target.value. So the event target is the input that we are rendering.
Yeah.
And the value is initially
just the value that you have tried to find.
But on change, it will be the thing after the keystroke.
Yep.
So now we need a semicolon here. And this will update the state,
looks fine.
Which will be rendered here, because if there is a state, it will be rendered here. Now on blur, finally, we don't need
the event.
We don't need the event now, because the thing will be in the state.
But then you need to change this.
Yes, we need to change this. Well, first of all, we need to set the state again to be empty.
Yeah.
So set state to be null. Right? We want to do this as the last thing, but we want to do it. And we want to fetch. We want to go to the server, and we want to do a put, and we want to send some form data. The form data will not be the parent element. We just got rid of all that. So let's create a variable so that we can call form data. And it will be a new form data. And now we need to manually put the field description. So here in Postman, we had the field description in the body with some value. We need to be explicit about this now. So form data.append
data.
Form data append the field description with this state description.
That's what you want.
And then we pass in the form data. And then we set the state to null. It's still complaining. I don't know why IntelliJ doesn't know. I don't know why IntelliJ doesn't know about set state, but
it's
in any case.
It's the same here as well, same thing. Okay, just try running, we'll know if it's fine.
So here we can restart the app. It seems to be...
because IntelliJ crashed.
IntelliJ crashed. Awesome. Now we go to Chrome, and I closed Chrome because I thought that would bring IntelliJ. So now it still works fine. Now there is no latency. It can write really fast. But let's see if it's updating everything and showing people what changed in another browser tab. So now I write something, nothing changes. I blur the field, something changes.
Okay.
This looks good, right? So let's commit this. What we just did now is we only update an item on blur. Only update item on blur. Much better for usability. Also, I guess we can see that in the browser. If we open the inspector, we will see that the network is doing every 200 milliseconds, it's doing a request. But we could be able to, if we wanted to filter the requests only for the ones that matter, we would see that it's only doing the put request when we blur. And that's all good. Next, what we have?
Extract event handlers.
Extract event handlers and components. Oh, also another thing we did just now is we got rid of the form hack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now this component is completely self-contained.
Yeah.
If the component is rendered out anywhere in the page, it will
work
work as long as you put the right props.
Yeah.
It will work everywhere. So yeah, this is a super smart way of using state. The state is null, and it will be the thing that changed. On blur, you update the field.
Yeah.
It's super nice to do it this way. Okay, now next, what do we have? So another thing we could do here is we could say await and make this async. Just because I only want to set the state to null after the server update. Yeah. So suppose that you have a super high...
Like the race conditions we saw. We don't want the state to be set to null unless we know that the request has been completed. It should not be empty and then try to send an empty description to...
Yeah, what would happen here is not that. Because we are doing this before we set the state to null. So that's fine. The problem here is a super weird one, and I would have a hard time reproducing it, so I'm not going to show it to you, but I can describe it to you. The problem is, you run this request, which will update the thing on the server, and we set the state to null. So suppose that this request that is running here takes like 5 seconds to finish. The problem is, if it takes 5 seconds to finish, the next iteration of the list items every 200 milliseconds will get the outdated version. And we set the state to null, so this will use the props, which is coming from the server, which will be the outdated one. And then after 5 seconds, it will update. So what would happen is you would type in some update, you would blur, you would see the thing go back to the previous one, and then update again. It would flicker back around. I think that's what would happen. And we could try to reproduce this using some thread sleep on the server. Do you want to do that?
Or do you want to extract the handlers out of this?
Yeah, well, that's another thing we can do. So you can just take my word for it that this would happen. And yeah, you can simulate that using thread sleep on the server if you're interested in seeing that happening. But yeah, that's a way of preventing the thing from flickering the old value just for a nanosecond. Or maybe if you're on Heroku and your internet is slow, then maybe it's kind of longer. Yeah. Okay, so next I'm just going to commit this use await, and that's it. Next we have on the list extracting event handlers in components. You can see that we are using the event handlers with real functions right away. That's not what you see in the React documentation. They say
you want different functions to actually do this.
Yeah, you just want to extract this so the thing reads better.
Yes.
So that's what we can do now. We can extract these little handler functions into their own functions into the components. So let's start from the top. Here I don't see any handlers. Here I see a handler. So maybe I should change this from a function into a class so that I can extract this into its own handler. That's easy to do though. I just say class this extends
React.component.
And this is the render method that returns whatever this was returning. And now we have it as a class. This onClick. It seems that people usually use the name handle click, so I think that's what we can do here. Handle click. And we extract this body in there.
And you can
and now we can say handle
click.
This
dot handle.
This dot handle click.
That's straightforward.
I'm rereading this to see if there's something wrong. Well, you can see that I'm not using exactly like in the React documentation. And that's because I want to not have to write this line. And if you want to understand what this line is doing and why I don't want to write this, it's in the React docs. Go there, have a blast. I don't want to write this line because it's a super technical thing in JavaScript. Instead of writing it this way, I would just have an explicit lambda here that calls this dot handle click. And this has to do with how the this keyword works in JavaScript. It is super fun, a fun read. Go read it. I won't. But yeah, so let's see if the plus button is still working in this new configuration, right? It appears not to be working, so I'll have to see what the error is. Props is not defined. Where?
What?
Plus button render. Plus button render props.
This dot props.
This dot props. Because now it's an
yeah,
object.
it's a class. Okay.
Restart.
Yeah.
Refresh. Working.
Yeah. Plus button.
Plus button is creating new items for us.
Yeah.
The plus button is working. The other plus button is working as well. So let's see. This is the last item. And when we click the other plus button, we have a new one.
Yeah.
Bad usability. We should probably focus on this guy. But we won't.
Okay, that is fine.
So now we did this for the plus button.
Yeah.
Header doesn't have any handlers.
That's fine.
The item list is doing a bunch of things, and it does have a handler. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No handlers.
No handlers at all.
So now item has no handlers.
That's fine.
Mark items is done. It does have a handler.
Yeah. So you want to change this to a class first?
Yeah. Is IntelliJ smart enough to refactor this into a class?
That's what I was going to ask.
No, it appears that IntelliJ doesn't know about. Yeah, it doesn't know about React that much. Class this extends
React.component.
And we learned that we want to save these dot props.
And take that out into a function.
And it's going to be called handle change.
Yeah.
And it will do this.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I forgot a semicolon back there.
No, but then how would it work?
Yeah, well, the thing in JavaScript is semicolons are optional. JavaScript can add the semicolons for you.
Okay.
In fact, if we look at the documentation for React, you can see that it's using some semicolons in some places. It may not be using semicolon in other places. It's optional. JavaScript will add the semicolons for you, but it's weird how it does that. In some places, it does in weird ways and breaks your code.
Get screwed up. That's why.
So I prefer to always have the semicolons there. So now we were on the mark items as done. And I believe we have extracted everything.
Yeah, and same for item description.
Yeah, and that's, guess, the main reason why we have this, because these handlers are big. So handle focus, handle change,
and handle blur.
And handle blur.
Yeah.
What is the advantage of having this method extracted?
It looks cleaner.
Yeah, the render method will look cleaner, and you can see the things separately.
This looks so left, right, and center right now.
Yeah. So now on focus, this handle focus.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
Change. It takes an event. So handle change, we can say event here. I don't know how this is going to work.
That's what I was going to ask you. Does it work that way?
Yeah, well, this is how we're going to do it. Maybe there is a better way of doing this. I'm not sure how it would look like, so I'm forwarding the event.
Okay.
Are you happy?
Let's see.
I mean, this is going to work. I'm sure this is going to work.
Then I'm fine with it. I have no issues already.
Yeah. So this will be asynchronous because this is asynchronous. Actually, this doesn't need to be asynchronous for technical reasons. It doesn't need to be, so I won't make it be, but it's debatable whether this is a good idea or not. Blur, you can see that IntelliJ is complaining about many of my uses of fetch in many places, like for instance here, because I am ignoring the return of fetch. I should maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe I should have this as async and this as await. I am not, however, and I think it all works for most cases.
Yeah.
But still, So this needs to be async. I had something here on blur, handle blur. Yeah, I think this is all we need, right?
Try running it, we'll know.
I'm just rereading this to make sure I'm not making any obvious mistake. It appears that it's all fine. We run the server. Restart the client. And it's rendering fine. It's updating fine. No, it's not.
No, this is not refreshed.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
No, try that.
Yeah, it's updating just fine. Let's have a smile here at +1 maybe. +1 right there. It's marking items as done. And it is creating new items just fine as well.
Yep.
So the whole application is working. We just extracted all the handlers into their own functions. And with that, I am happy marking.
Another thing done.
Yes, I am happy to just call it a day and extract handlers. Extract event handlers, and we are using React more properly. With that, I was reading the application the other day, and I found some minor things I wanted to fix, but they are really minor things.
Yeah.
And we want to tackle that on the next episode, which will be our last.
Hopefully. Don't say for sure, but hopefully.
All right. See you on the next and last one.